Okay, welcome to week 9. It's a bit of a surprise about what we're talking about today. We're going to focus on goals, but Gemma also had something else that is a little bit topical at the moment that she wanted to chat about. Do you want to dive into that, Gemma?
Yeah, so people on the call or watching back might have seen, and it might have actually been around for a little bit longer, but I think it's just kind of been picked up and gone a bit viral on social platforms about this viral video, and it's about cost per wear. It's called Girl Math, and it's a woman explaining to a male colleague or partner, whoever, what he perceives as an expensive purchase, how it can be broken down per cost per wear to justify the purchase. And I absolutely love the concept. It's been around for a very, very long time. Don't love the name Girl Math, but it gets people attention. So this video is great. But yeah, I absolutely love looking at things that cost per wear. And as financial coaches, financial advisors, these are the types of strategies that we always use, right? So the fact that people are just discovering them, it might surprise you what other strategies there are that we can help people with if they're needing to have less guilt around spending. So I do a cost per wear because I like calculation, because I love spending money on expensive designer handbags, but I'm also a huge tight ass. Like I have a lot of guilt around spending. So I do a cost per wear. They bring me a lot of joy, and then I can work out, how much I'm using them. So I love that strategy, but it just went viral this week and I was just seeing it everywhere and everyone's just like amazed at this girl math. And I'm like, it's not girl math, it's everybody math, and it's cost per wear math. But yeah, the concept's really good. What did you think? You saw it?
I am obviously familiar with the cost per wear and I don't disagree with it. If you have something that you pay $400 for and you wear it 100 times, then that obviously reduces your cost per wear. But at the same time, you can have a $40 item that's equivalent and use it 400 times. So sometimes I've seen people try to unnecessarily justify things, but I do get it. We also spoke about earlier the fact that you said those handbags bring you a lot of joy. There is no possession that I own or want to own that would bring me joy. And that comes back to values. And I shared with you earlier as well that the thing that brings me joy that might not bring you joy is spending a ridiculous amount of money on my kids' birthday parties. So everyone's just different. And I think recognizing that, and I could probably turn that into like a cost per guest thing. I just like different ways of looking at things, but I don't necessarily think that it's appropriate in all instances.
Well, it's like we were talking about, was it money misconceptions or another episode that we were talking about that you can justify any behavior, whether it's good or bad. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. Absolutely. For example, if I was going to buy an expensive handbag that I was like, oh, it's, I don't know, like sequiny, it's a going out bag, I'm literally probably going to use it twice in my life. Absolutely not. Whereas if I'm going, okay, am I going to use this? How often am I actually going to use it? So it helps you make the purchase decision as well. How often am I actually going to use it? What occasions can I use it? Does it actually go with all of the other things in my wardrobe? Or is this going to blow out and now I need shoes that match it and blah, 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 blah. So I think of all of that and go, yeah, I will use this for work. I will use this when I'm traveling. So yeah, there's so much that goes with it, but I think the cost per wear is really, really important, but you still need to think of the knock-on effect. Don't buy a new dress if then you need shoes, then you need a new handbag.
I remember actually as a teen, this is kind of related. I would have like an amount that I would be comfortable spending on an item of clothing. And then I realized that I think I would have been like 15 at the time. It was what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. But to have the same value for a dress, because if you're buying a dress, you don't need to buy two. You don't need to buy a top and a skirt or pants. So then in my head, the amount that I was willing to spend on a dress actually increased because overall outfit cost was going to be different.
That's a good way of thinking. Yeah. So if you were like, I need a new outfit, in my mind, I've got this much for a top and this much for pants. You're like, I can combine the two for a dress because it's going to cover my whole body. Is that where that's going?
Yeah.
I also think like I'm big on, which I wasn't before. I now am on like a minimalist. As you can tell, I wear the same thing, and you're really good with repeating outfits and stuff as well. I'd rather buy really good quality in neutrals. Like so many of my friends wear amazing bright dresses that I would love to. Every time I buy them, I never wear them. So I just kind of learned to stick to the things that I know that I'm going to wear, the good quality things, and just have less. So like a minimalist kind of wardrobe. Yeah, because I'm usually head to toe in black. I'll occasionally wear a dark green or a beige, but that's it.
We built our house 10 years ago and it came with this gigantic walk-in robe, and I literally have nothing in it. And my issue is, what am I going to put in here? I don't want to go out and buy clothes to put in there. How am I going to utilize this space? Because for the last 2 years, it's been a bit of a storage room for my mum and dad's whole house. So that's how big it is. Their entire house fit in my walk-in robe, not as in furniture and things, but just boxes of possessions. So yeah, I certainly don't. I like to wear nice things, and there's certainly been things that I, really wanted to buy and enjoyed wearing, but I don't necessarily value that area of my life like other people do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah.
Sorry, Kimberly just put in the chat as well that she does this with books. So she'll be like, yes, it's a $20 book, but it's 4 hours of entertainment. It's $5 per hour, like stuff like that. Yeah. So I love that. Whereas, yeah, go.
I'm a big believer in, advocate rather, for trying to get exactly what you want for either a lower cost or for free. And so if you're not writing in the books, utilizing things like the library, because then you've got a $0 per hour entertainment.
Yes. And then you don't have to store it and won't take up your precious space.
Good for the environment as well. And I also learned that the authors are still compensated for, I don't know how it all works, but there must be some kind of record in relation to things.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. Because that was one of the reasons why I think a lot of people said, like, no, I want to support the authors, I want to go and buy, but you actually, I don't know exactly the difference. Maybe we could look into that. In terms of goals, so what we're talking about does relate to goals, because if we spend $1 somewhere, it just means we can't spend it somewhere else. So we want to be conscious of our goals. There's lots of different types of goals. You can probably break them down into short, medium, and long term. Short being within the next maybe 12 months, although a short-term goal for you might be the next 1 month. Anything within the next 12 months. So medium term up to 3 to 5 years, and longer term 5+ years. What do you want to focus on in relation to talking about goals, Gemma?
I guess it's kind of what we start at the start. And it seems so simple, but it's not. So people actually setting their own goals, how you work out what your goal is, how you set it, and how you do an action plan to actually achieve it. So often I'll hear people talk about their goals, and generally there's things that go wrong when people are making goals. They're too big, they're unrealistic, they're too vague, but really, really importantly, I find that they're not that person's goal. They might think that this is life and life is a checklist. So I need to get the house, and then I need to go on a holiday, and then I need to get the car. But when you actually sit down and drill down into that and talk about each goal, is that actually their goal, or is that just what we just think society, that's how life goes kind of thing? So I always kind of challenge people on their goals is, why is that a goal? And when you're setting a goal, I think it's important to think about, how will I feel when I achieve that? Because that kind of tells you, well, is that something that's actually really, really important to you? Is that something that's going to bring joy to you and meaning to your life? Or is that something that you just haven't thought about your goals and you think that that's what they need to be? Would you agree?
Yeah, I'm just actually pulling up an activity that I stumbled across. It was in a book, and it was looking at goals or writing down goals differently to what I had ever seen done in the past. I'm just seeing if I can pull it up quickly.
I haven't actually the SMART goals. That's usually what people go to, right?
I haven't actually gone through this process myself. I've been meaning to. I'm with a leaky chap. But from memory, it was about brain dumping a lot of things that you're wanting to achieve. I think that it might have been 50 odd. And then the next step is to categorize it into a couple of different areas, and then making sure you have an even number in each area. And then you go through and you have to write a couple of sentences or a paragraph on why that goal is important to you. And if you can't really come up with a reason, you have to cross it off the list. And so I just really liked that it was a different way of looking at things. I can certainly share.
What I like about that is you would see them all on the one piece of paper, and you could see which ones that you actually felt more strongly to and which were not that important as well, if you see them all together. Yeah,
Yes.
I like that. It's kind of like survival for goals.
Yeah. So I will post that on the Finito platform. And if anyone actually goes and does it, let me know, and let me know how you found it, because if you enjoy it, I will probably pull my finger out and do it myself. The other thing that I talk a lot to clients about is breaking bigger goals down into smaller, more actionable or bite-sized steps. Do you have any stories or any examples in relation to that, Gemma?
Well, I'm big on breaking things down into milestones, bite-sized pieces. So, for example, if you had a goal to save $10,000, I would be breaking that goal down to, I'm going to save 10 lots of $1,000 parcels. So it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And so that you get that little encouragement every single time that you just have, hit another milestone. And I'm also very big on visual, like having things written down, being able to cross things off, like I'm that psycho that writes things on the list if she's done them, crossing them off. So I want to see progress and I want to be able to update things. So I think having written goals, whether it's on your phone, it's on your mirror, it's on, like a vision board, wherever, I think that's really, really important, and tracking them.
And that ties into habits too, doesn't it? I even had a client yesterday who she's been wanting to read this book before she makes a big decision. She wants to make a really informed and educated decision. And so it was one of those things that she never actually gets to it. So what we did, we've actually scheduled another meeting for 4 weeks' time. So we've worked out, well, how many pages of this book are left? Let's divide that by 28. And how many pages do you have to read per day? And so again, that's something that she can then tick off every day and feel like she's making progress, and to then put it somewhere that she goes every day. So right next to her toothbrush, for example, or right next to the coffee machine. So making it easier to get those small steps that add up to that really big change or to that goal.
Yeah, well, it's like that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You have to break it down.
I went and dug up a few statistics on goals and goal setting. And of course, like any statistic, we can bend it to suit. But regardless of that, there's a lot of people who have heard that if you write goals down, you're more likely to achieve them. The statistic that seems to fly around is that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you've written them down. But I've gone a few steps further with this as well. So that was based on a study, the 42%, on a study done in 2007, which was actually a really long time ago now, by the Dominican University. And then this is the one that I hadn't heard before and was a bit of an eye-opener. So this was a Harvard study in 1979, and they asked graduates about their goal-setting habits. So only 3% of them had specific goals and plans to achieve those goals. 13% had goals in their mind. They think about them. They might have mentioned it to someone, but they never wrote them down. They didn't come up with a plan to get there. And then 84%, which is huge, had no goals at all. So they resurveyed them all a decade after graduation. And the 3% that had written goals ended up earning 10 times as much as the other 97% combined.
That's crazy.
That would be heavily skewed by if like Elon Musk was in there or something. I don't know. Possibility, I guess. But that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, no, that is. I love when they resurvey the same people back as well. It would be interesting to see. So that was like 2017, you were saying?
No, that was so in 1979 and then again in 1989.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'd be interested to see if, like, in the last 5-10 years, with the rise of social media and the amount of financial information and all of that kind of stuff, if it's more likely that people do actually set goals and what those goals look like. Because I would presume, by the types of clients that I mainly see, like, well, in my financial planning career, like my parents type, older people, their goals seem to always be pay off the house and retire. Whereas I think people have so many different goals now, and they've got so much access to information that they can see that there's other possibilities. So I'd be interested to see if more people are likely to make goals and make solid plans around them now, and if that'll just keep increasing.
You're also speaking over that time to people who, as part of their conscious decision to achieve their goals, they've sought out support as well. So you're not necessarily being put in front of the people that aren't making goals, because that's part of the plan to actually reach out for support. I found another study. So this was by the American Society of Training and Development, whoever they are, sounds fancy. They did a study on accountability and found that you're 65% more likely to achieve your goal if you have an accountability partner. And I've heard that before. But the part that I hadn't heard, which is very relevant to you and I as financial coaches, is that if you have a specific accountability appointment, your chance of success increases to 95%.
I would agree with that, because if you think of the gym, like if you have a personal trainer that you have a booked appointment with, you're going to let that person down because it's their time as well. Whereas if it's just like, oh no, I'm going to a gym class and they won't notice if I'm there or not, that's exactly my attitude towards the gym. So that doesn't surprise me with finance and accountability, like appointments, meetings.
Yeah, because out of all of my appointments, clients walk away with a few bite-sized action to be able to move them closer to the achievement of their bigger goals. And I quite often see, and I would fall into this category as well, because I leave everything to the last minute, the day before the appointment or even on the appointment, I can see clients ticking off all of their tasks because they don't want to show up to the appointment and say, Lexi, I didn't do anything. As well, when you pay attention. So that certainly plays a part. There's no point in engaging in financial coaching and then not actually taking action. I always say it is a lot like personal training. It doesn't really matter what we do in our hour together. It's what you do in between appointments that really makes the difference.
I think we've both talked about before, like personally, that I'm pretty sure it was you. Like I've had a client that was regularly seeing me for accountability and they were literally not putting the actions in place. And I just got to the point where I was like, guys, this isn't working. I'm literally just taking your money, giving you ideas, but you're not committed to actually make it. Like, we tried so many different things and I just got to the point where I'm like, this isn't working. Like, I'm not going to keep spending my time, because it's disappointing, right? Too. And I'm like, and it's not fair on them. They're paying. They're obviously not committed. Like, get your shit sorted and then come back and when you're ready to actually make changes. Otherwise, it's a waste of everybody's time.
We can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped, I guess.
Exactly. But yes, okay, so we talked about how to make goals and making sure that they're your goals and bite-sized pieces. I think the other key thing to achieving any goal is to take the discipline out of it and to automate as much as possible. Like, it's a lot harder for people that aren't on regular incomes and things to, you know, have a savings goal or a regular thing. But where possible, I think to automate is the absolute best thing. If that's every time your pay hits your bank account, it automates into your investment or your savings account or your mortgage, whatever it is. But taking out that human intervention, the need for discipline, is one of my huge tips to achieving goals, is to just have that automated.
And we talk about this a lot. What works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. I sometimes, depending on how the conversation is going, will recommend either a habit tracker or a savings tracker or a debt tracker, depending on, you know, what things we're talking about. And these are quite often things that you color in. And so some people, you know, they say, yes, this is exactly what I need. It's like an adult version of a sticker chart. And then other people are like, no way, that's not for me. And so you don't necessarily want to push some kind of tracking if it's just not going to work for you. So firstly coming up with your goal, then breaking it down into smaller goals or bite-sized pieces or action items, a bit of a timeline, and then having something to track that you're on track. And then if something comes up, coming up with a way to navigate that, because life, it does get in the way. It throws us a lot of curveballs. Sometimes we might just have to reassess a goal, reprioritize goals as well.
I think that one's important, because a lot of the time people are working towards a goal for such a long time that then they forget to revisit, is this still actually their goal, or are they just working towards it because they've been working towards it for so long? So home ownership might be an example. Is actually saving for a home deposit your priority, or has that changed and now you might be buying investment property or doing something else? So I think you need to always reassess and check in that goal is still the priority, like you said, because life changes very, very quickly. So your goals need to change and you need to adjust how you're achieving them.
And as well, finding ways to achieve them faster, thinking creatively outside the box. I'm trying to think of an example. I was speaking to someone yesterday. Who was it? Oh, that's right. So they actually had 7 weeks annual leave in their job. And so we were looking at ways that because they didn't really need 7 weeks. They didn't want to just take 7 weeks holiday. They're in a stage where they really want to grow their income to be able to buy a house. So we spoke about different ways to be able to utilize that time off, checking in with their employer to see if they can, in effect, use it to become part-time and have 1 day off a week. And then what could they do in that time? And so we came up with a few opportunities for them to go and increase their income. So thinking outside the box, it might not be something as simple as just selling things at home that you don't use or need, but remembering that there is a limit to how much you can reduce your expenses, but there is no limit to what you can earn.
Love that.
Do you have anything else to add to goals?
I don't think so. I think that's really the key of it, finding the strategy that works for you, identifying the goals that you want, having a clear action plan, and tracking and reviewing. I think it's like fitness, right? We know what we need to be doing, but I think if you actually write those down, whether it be on a napkin, a piece of paper, if you're an Excel spreadsheet like me, like whatever depth and detail that you need that's going to keep you motivated, and maybe it is like a Pinterest board of different pictures and stuff and notes in your phone or whatever works for you, I think is really, really important. But setting goals is super important. I've always had big financial goals. And because I've been going through a separation, this was the first year that I kind of had no control over my finances because it's, messy. So this was the first year that I didn't get to like January 1st set like a big financial goal or my milestones. I was just kind of like, for the first time ever, I'm not going to have any financial goals. So I actually set a goal to do 52 new hikes, like walks, hikes, bushwalks, 52. And I printed it up and did 52 lines and wrote where it was, who I did it with, and the date. Only 18. But in my defense, it is because I've set this crazy rule that they had to be different hikes, and I'm on the Sunshine Coast, so so next to them I've got like I've done that one 4 times, I've done that 5. So I am going to hit it, but I did say they had to be different. And in 2 weeks' time, when I'm not here on that Friday, I'm doing a 4-day hike, Hinchinbrook Trail. I figure that's going to make up a lot of time too.
Well, book me in. I will come hiking with you. Accountability.
Yeah, actually, I need to come up to the Gold Coast and we can do a session live, and we need to help me get my goal. I need an accountability partner so I get my 52 hikes. So yeah, your goals don't even have to be financial, but you have to have a plan. So what I should have done is I should have like put per month, like broken it down further, whereas I just had this long list of 52 lines. And every time I open my pantry, it's like I'm so far behind. I should have actually broken it down and been smarter.
Put them in the diary, found your people in advance. Can you come with me on the 7th of October? This is what we're doing.
Yes, exactly. But I was just kind of like, this is my goal since I'm not making financial goals this year.
Well, I have a very loose goal that I need to commit to it. I think I'm not quite committed yet to just do very standard goal for a lot of people, 10,000 steps a day. I'm currently sitting at 1,000 and it's midday, so nearly midday. Not ideal. Obviously, I have not come up with a plan to make that happen, and I know what I need to do, but again, I'm with a leaky tap.
You should get that walking thing. What's those walking pads that go under your desk? And you could just be like, you could be doing this right now, just walking.
Would not do it. I know what I'm like. I know I would not do it. But having said that, I am ordering a car today. And so that is it is a financial goal, but we all have different things that come up in life, different priorities at any given point. And so, we've had a lot of sickness, as everyone would know, with my kids always being here on a Friday during winter. And so that has impacted every area of our lives. So, yeah, being kind to yourself, though, and always reassessing and putting the time aside to actually sit down and decide, what do I want to achieve? Because I found out a couple of nights ago, someone I worked with, she's 42 and she's been diagnosed with incurable brain cancer and is looking with 6 months to live. So it's time to sit down and write your goals and work out what you want to do, because you might not be able to do it in 5-10 years.
Yeah, and celebrate the wins along the way. Like, you need to enjoy, and money's there to be a tool. Like, it's there to be enjoyed. So I think one other thing that I'll make is I often see people be so passionate about their goals that they set the target so high. For example, every pay I'm going to save $500 because they're just so passionate about getting to that goal. But then they're constantly taking back from that savings account. And that's such a negative thing to put on yourself. There's so much guilt. Like, why not just set the bar lower and go, do you know what? I'm going to put 200 in, and then at the end of the pay cycle, maybe I'll have a bit more to put in. Maybe I'll put 50 or 100 in more. And then that's such a positive thing. Like, you're so proud of yourself. Make habits that are going to keep them encouraged and not set themselves up to fail with setting goals that are too high.
Yeah.
So be kind to yourself.
Well, I will see you same time, same place next week. If anyone has any specific questions or topics that they want answered, you can either put them in the chat or send them through to Finito and they can let us know. But otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Great. See ya.